Yes. Yeah, what else do we have there?
Let's see. The Bills' perception took a little bit of a hit. That continues to keep on taking a hit.
You know, the Bengals are in last place. But they feel like they could be the team to beat in the AFC, or at least one of them. And to beat Buffalo, you're watching Buffalo, and I'm basically watching Josh Allen. That's about it. And but, you know, the Bengals should have won that game, and they did. But now you're looking at the AFC North is unbelievable. I love the Ravens. I think they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And you know, the Browns' defense is pretty spectacular. The Steelers' defense is pretty spectacular. And then the Bengals, I think the Bengals might be as balanced as any team in that division. But Bengals last night picking up the win, and Buffalo. Who did we have on who didn't have Buffalo? Was that Chris Sims that he said he didn't have Buffalo making the playoffs to start this year? Yeah, well, all right. What else do you have, Seton?
Let's see. Man, Panthers. I don't know if it's bad for the Panthers, if it's worse for Bryce Young.
Okay.
The C.J. Stroud comparisons, though, weekly is just brutal.
But it's going to continue.
Man,
it's going to continue. The thing is C.J. Stroud had one of the greatest rookie performances by a quarterback in history, and he does that on the same day as Bryce Young throws a couple of pick sixes.
Yeah.
Wow. Here's C.J. Stroud on wanting the ball at the end to win the game.
That drive, man, it was special, and that's something in this league I'm learning, man. You got to be great 2 minute, and for me, I just want the ball. Just give me the ball, call the play, and I'm gonna go make a play. So I'm happy with the win.
Yeah, it was good. He was great. He's had one interception so far this season, and he gives you reason for hope if you're the Texans, because now did you find your guy? And if you did, now you start to build around him. Deshaun Watson, they got rid of that smell, and now they're playing competitive football here. Whereas Carolina is boring. You traded up to get Bryce Young, and maybe he still is a franchise quarterback. He's not on the same level as C.J. Stroud. And it's not like you go, well, he's got all those receivers with the Texans. Tell me all those receivers he's got with the Texans. I'll wait. What else, Eden?
I wonder if we did in 3 years from now.
Ooh, the 3 years from now.
3 years from now poll. I'm not giving up on Bryce Young.
No, you shouldn't.
And you know what, though? I don't have a root. I want them both to be immensely successful.
All right.
But I feel like we've heard like I can almost see us saying, man, remember after that one game he put up like 500 yards? I thought he was going to be a thing. I thought he was a sure thing, talking about CJ.
Okay. Right.
Don't you feel like people have those moments sometimes as a rookie where you're like, that dude balled out of his mind, whereas Bryce Young struggling his first year but then turns it on his second year? Sometimes what is so obvious and right in front of our face ends up being the opposite.
Well, what happens is the first go-through, sometimes somebody's really good, and then they get tape on you, and now they start to pick up tendencies. They'll see what your habits are. They'll learn your cadence, like all of those things. This is the job of the defensive coordinator, of those all-pro defensive players. Like, what are we seeing? Now we can solve this, or we can prevent this. It feels like C.J. Stroud, they're still learning, trying to figure him out. They figure out every quarterback at some point. Yes.
And even just the soundbite, like just give me the ball and I'm going to make a play. Those kind of things, 8 weeks into the future, it's like, what happened? I thought you just give me the ball and make me play. Like sports media does those things. What happened? I thought we just had to give you the ball and then you would make a play.
C.J. Stroud ranks among rookie quarterbacks through the first 8 games. This is where he ranks. So Andrew Luck averaged 300 yards. Cam Newton, just under 300 yards. Justin Herbert, 291. Joe Burrow, 284. C.J. Stroud's at 283. Patrick Mahomes was at 313. But he wasn't a rookie year. That was his second year as the starting quarterback for Kansas City. So he's in some pretty good territory. I mean, those are all successful quarterbacks with Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and then C.J. Stroud. Just to be able to have that weapon for a team like that, your head coach, DeMeco Ryans, is a defensive-minded head coach, whereas Frank Reich and former quarterback with Carolina. So you have an offensive-minded head coach, and Bryce Young has struggled a little bit. I don't think their expectation level was too high for either of these two teams. I don't know what the over-unders were, probably 4 or 5 wins. Well, Texans are going to surpass that. I mean, they're at least a threat in their division. Carolina is not. Yes, Paulie?
Seton was saying, C.J. Stroud, is there any way he could not be great? Like the way he's looking now, it's hard to picture. The only quarterback I could think of would be Robert Griffin III for Washington. He was the Rookie of the Year over Andrew Luck. He made the Pro Bowl. He had 3,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 picks, and everyone was on that bandwagon. He never made another Pro Bowl. Now, most of that was due to injury.
But he played dangerously.
Yes.
C.J. Stroud is not that kind of player.
Correct.
And that's the difference between those two. RG3, had he been more cautious, played smarter, didn't take on those hits, could still be playing football. But you play dangerous, and your career, Cam Newton was bigger than RG3. He played dangerous. Michael Vick played dangerous. I mean, at some point, they catch you. And if you don't get out of bounds, slide, those things, then that comes back to haunt you. C.J. Stroud seems to be a pocket quarterback and fine with being a pocket quarterback. Yes, Marvin.
Did the Panthers not see C.J. Stroud against Georgia in the college football playoff? That was Vince Young-esque. We would have been talking about him like we talk about Vince Young had they had won that game.
Yeah. That's what I kept coming back to. When Carolina says, hey, we're going to take Bryce Young. And I just kept thinking, okay, did Bryce Young have a game like that C.J. Stroud had in a big moment against Georgia? And that was an NFL defense that he was going against. Yes, Mark.
It feels like Mitch Trubisky and Deshaun Watson. Like when they picked Mitch over Deshaun, I was like, did no one see? No. So you guys didn't see Clemson, Alabama. Oh, okay, cool.
I did say that as well. Like, what am I missing on Deshaun Watson? The talent, the quarterback himself. Because he did it all there right in front of us. I think sometimes when it's right in front of you, you go, yeah, but how much better is he going to get? Yeah, maybe that's his ceiling. Where give me that guy that I haven't seen before. I haven't seen this Mitch Trubisky guy. Okay, there he is. Watching the Cowboys against the Eagles, and yes, I did pick the Cowboys to win this game, and they should have won this game. They had the opportunity, 1st and goal from the 6. You have time. And I kept thinking, all right, this is CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard maybe going out for a pass. You got 4 tries, and even your second best option was your tight end. Okay, you got opportunities here. The Eagles gifted you this field position. This is where you win these games. This is where you go, okay, now we're over the hump. Now there's no questions about the quarterback or the coach. Now, because you're watching this game in Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts was hurt, but he's a tough kid. And, they didn't play well at times, but then Dallas stayed in it. They were still there. And there were just moments where, Dak goes out of bounds, 2-point conversion. Like, there's so many little things, but those things add up. It's like watching the Dolphins against the Chiefs. At no point did I think the Dolphins were going to win this game. But they stayed in the game. But that's what they seem to do. Chiefs will keep you in the game, but you don't beat them. The Dolphins, you got to win some of these games. The same with the Cowboys. You got to win this game. Then it sends a message to your team and the rest of the NFC. The Bengals send a message. They beat Buffalo last night. Just to say, and what's Buffalo's schedule coming up?
So the Bills have losses this year, by the way, to the Jets and the Patriots. By the way, just to remember, the Bills host the Broncos, host the Jets. Both teams are better. Then they go at Eagles, at Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a tough stretch. They finish with the Dolphins, and that's going to be probably for a playoff spot.
Yeah. All righty. So we're settling on that poll question. Who had the worst weekend, Seton?
Yeah, we got the options up there right now, danpatrick.com.
Okay. Mike McCarthy talked about having an opportunity to win this game.
We had chances to win that game. I don't really think we were fighting back. I mean, we had the lead in the first half. We had that stretch of penalties there. I mean, it's the ebb and flow of a football game. I mean, that's the way these games go. I mean, they're a very good team. We feel great about our team, and we need to learn from these mistakes because that's what these games come down to.
Why do I feel like I could play that same answer 3 weeks from now, and then 3 weeks after that? How about them Raiders? Got their interim head coach Antonio Pierce. They're back. Had some I think they had more sacks yesterday than they did the entire season. Now, granted, it was against the Giants, but I thought that they had a little spirit, a little, step, a pickup in their step, a little giddy up in their step here. Here's Antonio Pierce, the Raiders' interim head coach.
You've had great wins as a player, but where does your first head coaching win rank?
It's up there. My stomach was, I had them butterflies before the game. That hasn't happened but 2 other times in my life, and it was special, very special.
Jay Glazer had the report on Fox Sunday morning that it kind of backfired on Josh McDaniels. He asked Antonio Pierce to say something to the team. So here is the assistant coach, and he's going to say something. It was basically Antonio Pierce talking about beating the Patriots when Josh McDaniels was there as the offensive coordinator, and they had Tom Brady and Randy Moss. And then all of a sudden, Josh McDaniels is basically saying, don't bring up the Patriots here. And then all of a sudden, it just caved in. Then all of a sudden, it went up to the ownership here, and then the players were like, hey, we want change here. And I'm thinking about this with, Mark Davis. Mark Davis has been there, I think, 11 years now. And what has he done? I don't think they've had a playoff win. They average 6.5 wins per season. And he's been the constant there when you think about this. He has been there 11 full seasons. He's run the franchise. They average 6.4 wins per season, 0 playoff wins. 3 team presidents in the last 3 years. Their CEO fired on Friday. All of these head coaches. He's the constant. He's the issue. You're going to be paying $80 million to coaches you fired. Now, are you going to bring in a coach and spend money? You're going to have to spend a lot of money for Jim Harbaugh if you want somebody like that. Are you going to hire Antonio Pierce? Yes, Pauline.
The Raiders' last playoff victory was 2002. They've had, I'm looking at the list, they've had so many coaches. I'm looking at maybe 9 different coaches, and I have to take a minute to count them up.
Why would you think anything's going to change with the Raiders if things haven't changed at the top? He's the problem. And this is why I said this last week. You got to bring in a football guy because there needs to be the buffer. I always likened it to this, and it's not a great analogy, but it's what I always think of. When you watch The Office with Michael, and Pam would always be on the phone when Michael was ready to say something stupid to somebody calling in, she would protect him. She'd go, hold on, Michael, he's not there yet. Because he'd always say something stupid. And then they'd put somebody through, and then he wouldn't say something stupid. You need to have a Pam there intercepting the phone call to prevent Mark Davis from doing something stupid again. I would hire Pam from The Office.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
He needs a Pam.
Yes, he needs a Pam. And that's where Tom Brady comes in. He can be Pam. He can be the football guy. I wonder, I know he's not involved officially. Tom Brady and Jim Gray are best friends. Jim Gray reportedly is consulting Mark Davis, or at least he has a good relationship with him. Now, you got to, let me just connect the dots here, and I'm sure everybody's going to deny this because don't want to get anybody in trouble. Jim Gray, Tom Brady, Mark Davis, discussions? Tom wants to buy into the team, hasn't done that officially. Do you make him, does he want to be team president? I don't know if he still wants to broadcast, but if you're buying into the Raiders, are you allowed to broadcast? I guess I would wonder. And you got one of the greatest competitors we've ever seen in sports. Get him in there. Now, if Tom, did he sign off on firing Josh McDaniels, his former offensive coordinator? That would be interesting. But it feels like you have to have that football guy there. A football acumen. Just because your dad was a genius, Al Davis, that doesn't mean, falls far from the tree.
Yeah, that whole Apple thing, huh?
Yeah. That Apple can hit you right on the noggin. But I wonder, are the Raiders just going to keep repeating the same mistake over and over and over? And are you going to hire the right person? Rich Bisaccia he coached them to the playoffs. The players loved him. But no, you got to have a bigger name. Josh McDaniels is meant to be a coordinator. There are a lot of coaches who are just meant to be coordinators, not a head coach. And we saw that again with the Raiders. All right. The Josh Dobbs situation for Minnesota was spectacular. I think he's been on 5 teams in the last, 45 months. Arizona said, see ya. We got Kyler coming back. Clayton Tune is going to come in and play a little bit. And they got rid of Josh Dobbs. So he goes, he's the sort of an emergency backup quarterback for the Vikings. Well, starter gets hurt. Josh Dobbs, he doesn't even know the name of his teammates. He didn't have any practice reps. He's on the sidelines taking snaps for the first time from his center. And he's got to be telling guys to turn around so he knows what their names are. And he leads them to victory. And this is the guy who said he either wanted to be an NFL quarterback or an astronaut. What a fascinating. So 45 teams, 45 weeks. He's been on 5 teams. Good for him. And I hope he gets something out of this because he played well for Arizona, and maybe if they move on from Kirk Cousins and Josh Dobbs, get a chance. But certainly a cheaper option there.